Hey all, how are you guys doing? FPL New Boy, thank you for joining the stream. E-Man, Mateta bad score today. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is a bit of a weird one with Mateta because he is someone who I think a lot of people want to move into, but at the same time, the minutes haven't been that good, and he's wasted a lot of big chances, and you don't really get those big chances again. But you obviously make the assumption that someone who's gotten a lot of big chances, whether it's Sar, whether it's Mateta, will continue to get them. So there's a piece to me really wanting to hold Mateta, but then I just think it's also going to be a minutes play too. So we'll see how that goes. Raya to Pope, Bruno to Saka. I just don't think that's a good upgrade, especially not on this week too. I mean, this is a pretty bad Newcastle game, so you're kind of asking yourself to have a slightly worse, I guess, outcome in the goalkeeping front just to make a. I still think it's a bit of a side grade in terms of the midfield position, but I mean, if you think Saka's far clear of Bruno, then maybe that transfer is worth it this week. Rutterwoke Nonsense is back. Yeah, but I did actually change my FPL name away from Rutterwoke Nonsense. So we'll see how that goes. One sec, actually, I'm just gonna quickly just change the top I have because I'm pretty much see-through. So let's just fix that in a moment. Okay, it's a bit better. So what kind of moves are you guys making with your teams? What's the sort of situation? What's the plan? I'll fix my camera as well. Is the wildcard ship reversible? I mean, I think if you've made more than X amount of transfers, like something like 2 or 3, I think it's not. So it depends on how many transfers you've executed. If you've only executed the one free transfer, I believe you can probably kind of reverse that. Would you take a -4 to get Richarlison to Bowen? I don't mind Richarlison to Waltmart. I don't mind Richarlison to João Pedro. I don't mind Richarlison to Bowen. I think these are all good free transfers because you can't really guarantee the Richarlison minutes now. And even though he could start a game, I think you're kind of putting yourself into a pretty tricky position regardless. So yeah, I don't mind it. Emilio, thank you so much, man. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're reading. I hope you're playing chess. Hope your elo's risen. All the best, man. Hope to catch up with you sometime soon. Fran me says, hi Fran, should I start Dubravka over Pope? I would do that, yeah. I mean, actually, we've got GW8 odds now, right? So these are the odds. I've devigged them myself, so I'm not using them from any other specific source, but me and my friend ChatGPT. Yeah, I mean, you look at kind of the odds for the matches that we have here, right? I'd definitely play Pope because the Brighton goals are just higher, right? So that's just effectively your clean sheet odds there. And if anything, I think you probably expect Leeds to actually, maybe they don't concede as many shots, right? So there's obviously that argument being different. But yeah, I'd take my chances just from a pure clean sheet point of view. And we've got so many good matches in terms of the bottom half of the table. So many. Like West Ham, Brentford, Sunderland, Wolves, Burnley, Leeds. And that's why I think it's perfect for a lot of people who've held onto the bench boost. But equally, it's also a great week where I would say, I mean, you could play two 4.0 defenders, and I think it could even be better than, let's say, my Virgil, right? Like a Joe Ronan could be better than my Virgil is what I'm trying to say. If you look at, let's say, United, sure, their goal odds are pretty low, but Virgil's not as good as a Defcon or as, I don't know, a Rodon, for example, or a Mukiele, certainly. Jamie, hope you're well too. Do you start Gordon or Stack? I think that's an easy Gordon start. I mean, you know, Stack's minutes are also kind of reduced, so if you kind of do that comparison, probably just go with Gordon. I mean, Stack's value too is as a bit of a Defcon is tied to minutes, right? So if his minutes are reduced, then that's kind of it's binary, right? It's like it's either or. Whereas with Gordon, he can still sort of produce an open play for a bit. Bomb Stark, I know you also use FPL Review. Which tools do you use there most often? Do you have any custom settings on any of them? I tend to actually just observe a lot of models and just see what the differences are between different team strength models. I mean, I've used pretty much every tool out there in FPL. I've used, like, even Hub's tools. I kind of look at their odds. I look at expected points from them. I also look at, I mean, Solio. Yeah, I mean, I probably pay more attention to a mixture of market odds now, because we have so much available information. Like I myself just simply log on to a couple kind of player market websites and then just think about the impacts in terms of players, like how the market's valuing them. And then I also tend to look at kind of team goals for teams in the markets. And then I also look at 11ify and Simon's models. Just to kind of see, you know, what are the differences in terms of team strengths that I can really infer, and how that kind of supports, I suppose, me playing certain players over another. Because what I would say right now is I think the game is a bit dull in the sense that I don't think the range of available good picks, at least in my mind, are that large. So when I make decisions, a lot of them are just simply, you know, what is my 50-50 this week in terms of if I was to play this player or another player, and what am I gambling against? What am I almost backing, right? Like if I was to think about it from that standpoint. And then obviously there's just at the end of the day, it's like just my subjective view, right? I just kind of, I'll push through certain things like my minutes convictions on certain players. So I personally think minutes are the most important thing in FPL in terms of understanding minutes and sort of appreciating the importance of them. But I think that second piece in terms of just discussing about what tools you use, I think because we have so much available market information and it's quite good, it does help you with just the immediate game week, but you do need to make inferences about the future, right? So that's where kind of expected points and team strength models are quite helpful, because you get to see what's behind the pudding in a sense going forwards. Whereas with the markets, you only really see, you know, this is our understanding of the game for this week and this week only. Even though there are some season-long markets, like you have no idea really what they're saying about future games. Like it could be like, for example, if Rodgers has really good projections or Watkins, that's not a reflection that Watkins and Rodgers are good buys. That's a reflection that over the season that they're expected to produce. But when you know they've got 3 bad fixtures in a row, you know, you don't get to see that necessarily in market in terms of what they're projected for 9, 10, 11. So, or 8, 9, 10. So something to think about. Why Virgil van Dijk over Senesi? Just better clean sheet odds, right? Start Richards or Senesi. Try not to spam in chat, please. But I mean, personally, I would play Richards. Minutes put me off Gordon. Absolutely. But at the same time, I think the comparison with Gordon there was Stack, right? And Stack's minutes are starting to get eaten over. Why not Senesi over Paqueta? It's not even close. Why would you play Senesi over Paqueta? I'm kind of confused. I mean, if anything, if you look at sort of the match day odds this week, I'd much rather play Paqueta. Because I mean, the way that I would visualize this is Paqueta's someone who can get Defcon, has a reasonable chance of getting a clean sheet that's actually higher anyways than Senesi. And then he's obviously got attacking threat, like as part of those 1.38 goals. So Senesi has much less goal threat, is expected to concede anyways, and I am playing him against one of my attackers, so yeah, it feels easier to play Lacroix versus Semenyo than Mateta versus Senesi. And yeah, I would never play Paqueta versus Brentford at home on the bench versus Senesi versus Crystal Palace away, even though, yeah, sure, people can make the argument that there's been a lot of 0-0s or 1-0s or 2-0s, you know, in certain directions. Top of the morning to you, Incognito. Would you start Senesi or Rodon? I would start Rodon. Paqueta or Mente? On the wild card, I would personally go Mente. But if you're asking me about who's better this week, I would say Paqueta. Someone's asking about Enzo news. Let me think. Would you start Esteve or Senesi? I'd actually still start. I'd probably still start Esteve. I think that's a bit of a closer one though, because I'm not super fond of Burnley, if I'm honest. Another thing that can kind of be negative with Senesi is like what happens to, let's say, the Bournemouth game state, and is there a potential for him to get subbed off? Like if you look at this last match, right? He gets subbed off at 77 minutes, and obviously they then proceed to win the game, but that stops him effectively from hitting the 10 CBIT. So there are some negative impacts about Senesi's minutes too. Is Foster a good pick this week? I mean, this is probably one of his better weeks. Is he fully fit though? What's the news on Foster? Was only a dead leg on international duty. Fair enough. Is confident that the striker could feature against Leeds. That seems positive, but I also question whether he's going to play a lot of minutes. Is Njai a hold, keeper, sell? I think more of a hold. But I also think this week is a very good week to sell if you're looking at like a SAR, for example. At the same time, though, you're almost, by buying into SAR, you're almost dealing with a poor fixture next week. So, are you set up for that is one of those questions. I think Enzo has enough uncertainty personally where I wouldn't play him, guys. Not in terms of wouldn't play him, but more like I wouldn't buy him right now, if I'm honest. I do think there's a bit of uncertainty there. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I mean, we still have a lot of time, right? I just think that they can easily play Andre Santos. I don't know if there's any other Chelsea fans here. Will Konate start? I think so. It seems like he's okay. Why do I not have Kudus? He's so good. What makes him so good? Him getting FPL points, or like his underlyings are really good? I think he's solid. I don't think he's one of the best picks in the game long term in midfield. Like I honestly think I look at Caicedo, Anthony, Rice, and Kudus, and I still think I have other midfielders I like. Like even Njai, I prefer over Kudus still. But of course, Kudus will stay around in FPL, and Njai will go to AFCON. I still prefer Sar to him. I prefer a fit Enzo, so that's going to be a next week thing. I still prefer a Minte, if I'm honest. Like Kudus has produced, and that's fine, but I don't really look at that as saying, he's just going to go on this meteoric pace where he is ultimately on something like 5 assists from like, I don't know, 1 XA. So yeah, he's clearly overperforming. I get the passion though. He is a good FPL pick, and he's always been a green on my cheat sheet, right? Like I've always been high on his minutes. I do really like Kudus. It's also a case where I think the Spurs fixtures, I've probably missed a lot of the good ones. And if I look ahead, I probably think, like, let's say Brighton have a cleaner slate, generally speaking. Like, I'm talking up until game week, probably like 20-ish. Like, if we look at that sort of long of a run fixtures, yeah, I almost think I would take Minte in that situation. It is close though between Minte and Kudus, I would say. The next 4 games are amazing for Spurs, so it's probably a case of after that, like I would definitely be like on the Minte bandwagon. Um, but Kudus is an incredible pick. I can't dismiss it. He's also at 6.8 now, right? So he's gotten a lot of price rises now, where it makes a little bit less sense for me to be invested into him. But maybe on the wild card, I should have considered him a bit more. But I mean, I went for Reinders, I went for Paqueta. Felt like Paqueta at the time had better short-term fixtures, and obviously there's a price difference too. So I think that 6.5 million was kind of a struggle to get towards while spending so much money in the midfield. Whereas now I don't feel so confident, I guess, about going big at the front, or at least with the players that I have. So I feel a little bit more comfortable, I guess, moving off of them. Gabriel and for Virgil van Dijk or Porro? I'd probably go over Porro, personally. I just said the Spurs fixtures are quite good, but at the same time, I still think Defcon edges it out quite a fair bit for Porro. Like I mean for Virgil, right? Because I was just talking about how it almost feels like Porro needs to be a pure 90-minute player from this point on, and I don't think he is. For him to be better than Virgil as a hold. So yeah, like I mean games like Everton away, Chelsea at home, United at home. I don't think you're really expecting cleans either. Like neither is Arsenal away. So I probably wouldn't take that. Whereas honestly, Virgil does have some good games. Like I think Aston Villa at home is very good. United at home is very good. Brentford away is very good. Even Nottingham Forest at home in 12 is very, very good. Like there are some really good Virgil games coming up. RLHPYRT, thank you so much for the super chat. Hey Fran, do Bruno / Richards, Enzo / Eze or Saka stack? Bit of a tough one because I'm not sure if I can really vouch for Enzo this week. I think I'd probably go Enzo Eze if you actually had a really good first sub. Because my concern was, well, the other question I want to ask is, if you go Saka stack, how often are you playing stack? If you're not planning to play stack a lot, I wouldn't even go stack really. I would actually just go long stuff. I don't mind long stuff. I don't really mind Paqueta. These sorts of players are pretty good. Yeah, like I because long stuff's 4.9 too. You save a little bit of money. You're planning to bench boost next week, right? I almost would just go long stuff. Because it's the same logic, right? You play off of the good Leeds fixture. So I would just go Saka stack. Hey, Fran, is this bench boostable? Dubravka, VVD, Mente, Senesi. Yeah, wonderful. Oh, sorry. Look, okay, yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think that's a good bench boost. So I think it's a Haaland or Salah cap week. I personally think I'd still Haaland cap, but if you actually have really good... If you have the risk tolerance, I would probably appreciate Salah a bit more. I would say this is a 50-50 cap week. So if you were kind of leaning on, like if we think about this season, right? We almost have Salah with, drastically poor underlyings. Models don't really look into that and think, okay, that's his level now, right? We don't look at 7 games and just say that's Salah. So there's an extent to obviously how the way he's being modeled now is off of a lot of previous behavior that we've not seen this season. That was good. Whereas obviously Haaland's almost the flip side of the coin, where he's overperforming, not in terms of even just the finishing, but just the expected goals per match is just nuclear. So I think if you were kind of to meet in the middle, this is a week where it's like a 50-50 captaincy because of things like that. But I would almost still just play Haaland because I would personally bet on the Salah under. And then I'd probably Salah cap the next 2 weeks, where I think the gulf in fixture is much better. Ends fit, ends available. Has someone tweeted that? I'm just trying to look for some Enzo news, and I don't see anything. So Harry says Enzo usually posts a matchday graphic on Instagram the night before. He has not yet. Caicedo has. Interesting. I mean, I would say that the news for Enzo doesn't look great. And they do have Andre Santos ready. Is Isak worth the punt? I actually think so. I think he's considerably interesting. Because of like some of the slot confidence, but you almost have to know that part of the play for Isak now is just like, okay, his minutes aren't perfect because Ekitike is still around. The value towards going Isak is just no one owns him right now, and Liverpool actually have a really good run of games where you can probably say, okay, with reduced minutes, I'm still buying into someone who's very good. Enzo or Stack? What do you mean by that? Sorry. What do you think about Senesi over Virgil van Dijk and Gravenberch in for Paqueta? I don't think either of them makes sense personally. I would play Virgil van Dijk over Senesi, and I wouldn't play Gravenberch over Paqueta. I wouldn't buy Gravenberch over Paqueta. Bench was active. Asen Hill, congrats. But Foster and Alderete yellow flagged. I don't think you should be with Alderete, it seems like. Enzo a Stack to buy. I mean, I'd probably still buy Enzo if you have a good auto sub. I wouldn't really buy Stack in general. I'm just not sure why. I'm actually confused why people think Stack is a good buy right now. I mean, he's not playing perfect minutes. He's rising tonight, but are you just going to buy someone because they're going to rise tonight, or are you going to buy someone because they actually play football? That's kind of what I'm confused with. Who's dropping tonight? Grealish, Murillo, Cunha, White, Rogers. No one's super relevant. Virgil's actually pretty close towards a drop. Interesting. But fortunately, I've gotten one rise from him, so I don't really mind about that, do I? In terms of rises, yeah, so people are buying Stack because he's rising, or yeah, that's kind of what I'm confused with. Any Caicedo news? I think he's been in training, right? So he should be fine. Thanks, Fran. Good luck to yourself as well. Freddie, should I have Enzo and wildcard if I bench boost 9? Yeah, I think so. I still think it's worth the risk because like Enzo's a borderline captaincy option next week. And you kind of have to think about, I guess, if Chelsea were to rest Enzo, part of the thinking is they've got Ajax next, then Sunderland next. Like, he still has a whole week to get fit for those games, right? Or maybe even the Ajax game is like a skippable because Ajax is actually a pretty easy opponent. So I almost think, yeah. And I mean, Enzo, when he's back, will be playing very consistent minutes. And he could even play today. It's just on the wild card, you're probably gonna have a good sub. Reinders Minte in the wild card. I would personally go Minte if I could. Like, I think directionally for my team, Reinders, Mateta, and Dewsbury Hall can go very, very soon. Morning, friend. Who would you start today between Minte and Paqueta? See, this is the opposite version of the question. Where on this week you're asking me who would I play? I would play Paqueta over Minte. Right, it's a much better fixture for Paqueta. Salah Evan Nelson. I still think he's a hold. This is a pretty bad fixture though. In terms of expected goals, it's pretty low for Bournemouth, for example. Should I get Gabriel for a step but lose points? You mean take a hit? I probably would still do it. It's a very good Gabriel week. So if you're going to take the hit anyways, at some point in time down the line, I would just do it now. But if you want to hold on to Estev and then Gabriel's not a hit next week, I don't really mind you just waiting 1 week. Start Enzo. Yeah, I think starting Enzo makes sense. I don't really see Enzo as someone coming off the bench. I think he start or doesn't play, right? But yeah, going back to that Evan Nilsson point, I kind of think he's still a hold. If you want to play him, for example, the week after this, then I'd probably hold him, and then you can reassess the landscape, right? Because there's so many forwards who like Bowen. Honestly, if you skip this week, do you really want him in your team? Probably not. With Waltemart, it's a pretty poor fixture. So with Evan Nilsson, like, and if Waltemart, for example, is like directionally where who you want to go to, like I wouldn't do that transfer this week. Similarly, if you go Mateta, I guess you're asking for a pretty poor fixture next week too. João Pedro is probably the only exception where I'd say if you go from Evan Nilsson to João Pedro, it kind of makes sense to do it now. Hi, Fran. Is this bench boostable? Dubravka, Watkins, Anderson, Senesi? Yeah, I mean, if Watkins is actually part of the bench, I don't really mind it. And Anderson, actually, as long as he gets DEFCON, like that already bolsters the bench boost a fair bit. Should I do Gakpo for Sar this week so I can do Bruno Saka next week, or should I just... No, I would do it next week. I think Gakpo actually is a really good game. Even though Sar has a good game himself, it's not like I think it's worth the transfer, because it's like, if it's a bit of a side grade move this week, I don't really see the value of it. By the way, thank you guys so much for joining the stream. 116 of you all here. If you guys have enjoyed the stream so far, please feel free to like, please feel free to subscribe. We're trying to get to 46,000 subs at some point soon, so thank you all for supporting. Would it be silly of me not to bench boost this week if the opponents are Lee, Sun, and Bert? Yeah, I would bench boost. Part of the reason for bench boosting too is honestly, it's just a bench boost, right? You don't really know how it can go. You're probably not going to get better fixtures later down the line, and it'll free you up to like sort of not make transfer decisions around that in the future. Big questions. I'm in a wild card. Should I go for João Pedro, Waltemart? I would personally go João Pedro, but I can understand people wanting to go for Waltemart. I just think João Pedro has better games in the short term, whereas Waltemart might be a bit better of a long-term option potentially. But you can easily just go João Pedro to Waltemart in the future, right? Especially since in a few game weeks' time, I mean, you're so close to those 5 free transfers, you know, it would almost be a bit of a shocker if you'd struggle for that. Would I go Anderson or Tarkowski for DEFCON points? I would go Anderson because Tarkowski can actually lose defensive points, right? Like -2 goals, etc. Punchan, member for 14 months as a president as well. Thank you so much, my friend. Let's get that green arrow. Yeah, 100%. Thank you, Stoney. Wow, Fran, early here for once. Thank you, Poppy. Yeah, I woke up a bit early today, so I need to go back to bed very soon. No, I'm kidding. But use your bench boost. Yes, I did use my bench boost. I used it on game week 5, and it was pretty awful, but Senesi did kind of save it or salvage it, and I didn't have grinders, right? So it kind of made the old BB work. Just gonna quickly post my team FPL wise on Twitter as well. Is Game Week 8 a good time to wildcard? I think so. I mean, just logically speaking, like, most of the reason why I suppose people would have done a Game Week 8 wildcard is you've been holding on to some picks that are about to hit basically a roadblock, like let's say a Rodgers or a Watkins. At the same time, you've come off an international break and you have a little bit more information. I think holding on to 13, if your team has issues, isn't that necessary when you have so many transfers around 13. Or that you can start building even that bank of transfers with a much more solid team heading in towards 13. Start Enzo or Virgil. I'd start Enzo because Virgil I think is a great auto sub. Fernand's dropping below his starting price again this season would make me sad. I don't even care honestly at this point, because I mean I'm gonna hold Bruno for a pretty long time. So you know, let him price drop. Let him price drop. Shout out Boom Man for inspiring the mustache. Can't remember your team selection vid. End up using FT. No, I mean I've always said Mateta, so I've just rolled. You want free transfer? Should I ditch Bruno? I mean, if you can go Saka in one move and you prefer that, then go for it. If you can't, I don't really see the point of moving off of Bruno. One more question. My defenders are Kukurea, Rodon, Richards, Senesi, Porro. Which 3 should I start? Kukurea for sure, Rodon for sure, Richards, I would say. Is it worth moving Reinders to Caicedo? Not this week. I'd probably do it next if you really wanted to do that. Start Mukiele or Lacroix? I would go with Mukiele personally. Close one though. Should I start João Pedro? Yeah, over Caicedo for sure. Should I free hit because I have a feeling Salah will unleash his wrath on United? No, I don't think so. I mean, if you actually think he's going to unleash his wrath on United, I mean, why not just move into Salah somehow? You're leaning towards Senesi over Richards because you also have Semenyo? Trying to think if Salah's actually gone super nuclear recently versus United. Because I feel like in recent matches in the Prem, he probably actually has completely destroyed them, right? But there was obviously that era where it was like 21, 22, where it was just crazy, where it was what, 5 goals versus United that season, and they were like super one-sided games. I just think Liverpool aren't that great, you know. I mean, yeah, there's some seasons where he's just kind of blanked, like 23, 24, 2021. I mean, like just 1 goal in 2 games. It's not much. I don't think, like, okay, Salah can easily score, and Salah's expected to score even, like, if you just look at the odds, but, you know, is it worth the free hit? I wouldn't say so, especially if you're not going to captain him too, right? Part of the element, I suppose, is, like, if you're only going to game with that 1 goal, I mean, there's other players in the game who will score that 1 goal. Yeah. And then also, I mean, there's also just, like, you know, Salah's better next week than Haaland. Salah's better the week after that versus Haaland too. So if you really want a free hit on a good Salah game, I mean, there's opportunities in the future. Keeping Haaland for the long run, yeah. I think go DCL for Watkins this week so you can get Gabriel with 2 free transfers. I don't mind that personally. I mean, I'm not anti-DCL whatsoever, but obviously people think that I recommend DCL because I'm evil. Salah legs have gone. He won't go ham for United. Could be a pen, yeah. And that's the value of, I guess, being watched and being a penalty taker, right? Anish, thank you so much for the super chat. Should I use my 3 transfers to swap Bruno and Stack for Enzo and Sar this week, or save them to get 4 free transfers with my wildcard and BB chips already used? I don't really mind those transfers, but I think the issue is, like, do you actually have a good auto sub for Enzo? And then also, if you go to Sar next week, I mean, what happens to the team in terms of rotation? Is it the case where you, you know, still play Sar reluctantly versus Arsenal, or what happens there? I would almost think because of the Enzo uncertainty, you probably should actually just roll. But I don't really like Stack either. So if you're going to play Stack anyways, you know, there's Enzo and Sar, I suppose. I think I would err on rolling personally. Is Enzo out? I just think we don't have enough concrete information on Enzo. Should I start Senesi Rodon? I would probably start Rodon. Would you bench boost Alderete Longstaff to Bradford Guehi? Definitely. Is there any news on Alderete? He's been in training. So what are we doing now? I'm rolling. You like our analog framework in FPL Fran? Should I start? What do you mean? Good morning to you though, Magnus. Should I start Alderete over Njai? Yep, I would. Easily. It's not even because I dislike Njai, by the way. I just think it's a really good game. You know, for what it's worth. By the way, guys, do you like the stream graphic, and is there anything you'd suggest, you know, to do on it? I'm pretty happy. I worked on it yesterday, covered for a couple hours, and I think it's sort of like really improved the look of the stream. But if you want to change it to anything, if you want to suggest anything for the stream graphic, feel free to let me know. At the same time, if you're here, feel free to like and subscribe for the stream. It really does support the channel. should I start Anderson or Tark? And should I probably incorporate the graphic into, like, for example, some of the main background type videos as well? Is selling João Pedro to Waltemad worth the -4? I don't think it's worth the -4 at all. I mean, I would never do that move for a -4. I wouldn't even do that move for a free transfer. I think I actually think it's borderline silly, because this is a better Chelsea game than it is a better Newcastle game. Like, if you just look at the odds, right? Chelsea projected 1.76 goals. Newcastle projected am I blind? Where's Newcastle? Right, 1.37, right? This is just not a good game to go Waltemad. I'm sure Waltemad can maybe continue this run of 1 goal per game, but people thought the same thing about João Pedro in terms of his meteoric start, right? So I'm not expecting a lot from Waltemad in this match, and I just don't think I'd sell João Pedro, especially since even next week is a much better João Pedro game. It's Sunderland at home. Like, why would you not take that opportunity? Wild card or not? To be honest, if you're actually deciding between a wild card at the end of the deadline and you haven't done it, I probably wouldn't wild card. It probably suggests that your team actually can hold on. What are the latest news regarding Enzo and Caicedo? I feel like Caicedo is closer to playing than Enzo, because we've seen match day tweets from like Caicedo, or like posts rather. On the flip side, yeah. Waltemad or Bowen? Well, I would still go Waltemad. Time to update that Twitter X icon. Oh, in terms of the graphic, yeah, that's a good point. Are those odds for clean sheet? No, but I mean, it's just math, right? Like, clean sheets are basically a percentage of... I mean, I can explain how clean sheet odds work, right? We can do a little bit of... You guys want to do kind of like a math lesson? Shall we do that on the stream? Or no? Basically, right? Like, if we're saying... I mean, all clean sheet odds is what is your opponent's expected goals against yourself? And then what is the probability of, based on that, I guess using even a normal distribution of like them actually scoring 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, but actually just you looking at the 0, right? So that's how clean sheet odds work. So I'm literally happy to share an Excel screen where we can quickly just show the math of it. We can just do that. Just please don't give me homework. I just had my midterm. Let it be. All right. I won't do that to chat. Not at 9:42 in the morning. Or should I? Triple Captain Holland? No, I would not do on this match. I just think there are much better Holland games to go. I know there's an element of, okay, we think Holland's in form. You want to capture a part of that form, so why not take it with the home game? But I just think you have better games. And who actually says the form can drop off that much, right? Or that form is so tangible. Do you think with Enzo and Alderete Ben is on? Yeah, I'd probably still risk it. Name one player you don't have but will be looking at moving forwards. Yeah. Enzo, sorry. I literally should be naming one player. Enzo, to be honest. because I don't have him this week. I think I wouldn't use a transfer on him this week. I'd probably wildcard into him for sure, especially since I'll have an auto sub. Yeah, definitely Enzo. If you wanted more, I'd say Minte, Sar, and DCL. Especially since I'm just gonna basically spend. If I'm gonna spend more money towards downgrading some of the forwards as I'm not happy with them, I think going Gu could hurt me because say I go Gu now, I still have Dewsbury Hall. So I guess I could go Gu, but then I still go out of Reinders and Dewsbury Hall next week. Like Reinders is a poor picture. Dewsbury Hall is just not at the same level where I think he's a consistent starting player. So if I almost replace Dewsbury Hall, preferably with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I'm not saying I'm playing Calvert-Lewin every single week. I'm basically just saying that I'm playing Calvert-Lewin for 1 week, and then he's actually just the same bench fodder that Dewsbury Hall is within my team. Is it worth starting Alderete ahead of Senesi? I think so. Rogers or Xavi Simons? I'd probably say Xavi Simons. Will you keep Gyökeres if he blanks next 2? It's a good question. I mean, Havertz might actually be back over the next 3, right? The thing is, look, the next 2 games are the tougher games. Then you've got Burnley, then you've got Sunderland. I just wouldn't take... I would probably just keep him up until Sunderland, and then after that he can go. Like he can go for the North London derby. Because you kind of think about the break, logically speaking, right? The international break on November is going to be between that Sunderland match and the Tottenham game. If anything, I feel like Havertz is going to get that time between that to probably come back into the team. So that poor run of Arsenal games probably starts. It's not even that poor because they're kind of like AB in terms of hot, cold, right? Tottenham home, actually a good game because it's a home game. Then Chelsea away, awful. Brentford at home, great. Aston Villa away, awful. Wolves at home, amazing. Everton away, pretty poor, right? So they kind of have a poor enough run of fixtures then where if Gyökeres is unimportant and then Havertz is back where I would easily sell him then. Is Enzo playing for Chelsea today? We don't have any news. Gabriel Cucurella this week? I'd say Gabriel for sure. I don't think you really even need to get Cucurella next week, by the way. I mean, obviously, I still think Gabriel, generally speaking, is more priority. What's the latest on Enzo? Honestly, just lack of information. How does the Saka captaincy sound against Holland? Sounds like I wouldn't do it this week. I mean, Fulham away is a tough match, guys. Come on. It is a tough match. Like, I prefer having defenders for this match. Triple captain Holland, worth it. Like, if you want to, go for it. I just think there are better ones. I was just thinking as I have Saka plus Gyökeres plus Gabriel, I could just go into Mateta and go double Arsenal. Yeah, I actually don't mind going double Arsenal defense. I have Semenyo in my team. Should I start Richards? What's my highest ever ranking in a game week or season? I don't know what my game week ranking is, but season's like 4. Like, I mean, I don't know what I finished, 437 or something like that. Let me see. Yeah, 437 is my highest rank. I don't know what my game week rank, like best game week rank is. I've never kept that. I've wildcard, but it feels so template. Yeah, but you have to think about it too. If you're wildcarding, honestly, at the end of the day, it's template, but not many people are on the wildcard, right? So at the end of the day, you could go for a template wildcard, but you're maybe 3 to 4 free transfers ahead of everyone else. Saka captain, I wouldn't consider it. Guys, where are we getting Saka captain from, honestly speaking? When I look at the odds, right, I am an odds man. 1.76 for Arsenal. Are you really going to take Saka on this match? Like, we're basically saying Erling Haaland probably has like 45% of his team's share in terms of goals. So if you want to do a little bit of quick math, it seems like we actually need to, what I need to do is set up like an Excel space where we just do a little bit of math for the week. But I know people don't love odds. Even on iTest, of course, you know, we have Erling Haaland doing what he's doing. But yeah, like, I mean, Saka's probably somewhere, what, like 20% of his team share, somewhere around that. Nothing too exceptional. So yeah, I'm sure Saka can actually get a nuclear haul, but just betting against Haaland or even Salah this week, if I own Saka, I probably wouldn't do it. Gameweek 9 bench boost viable. I mean, it just depends who's on your bench, right? I think bench boost is probably one of the most overstated chips in the game. If anything, it's better to just use the bench boost as opposed to like spend a lot of time setting it up. Salah out, and if so, for who? I would keep Salah personally. I mean, the next 3 games for Salah are incredible. You've got Vicario and Van de Ven. Would you sell Van de Ven for Rodon or any other defender for -4? No one's worth a -4 for any of the Spurs defenders. Actually, the Spurs clean sheet odds are actually really, really good, right? If you kind of look at the Aston Villa projected goals, I mean, this is a great week to play Spurs. To play Spurs defenders, that is. Would you play Senesi on a wild card? If you were kind of bought into Senesi, like let's say you don't own him at 5.0, you own him at 4.7, I think I would do it. If you're wildcarding into him for the first time and he's worth 5.0, I probably wouldn't wildcard into Senesi. I hope that kind of answers the question, because I think there's a value play to it, right? Where Senesi is really good, but actually the short term fixtures aren't great, so you're almost planning to have Senesi as a bit more of a long term option, as he's not great in the short term. Like City away, Aston Villa away is pretty poor. Crystal Palace away is poor. Like the only good game is Nottingham Forest at home, and the next game is West Ham at home in 12. You don't know whether the bench was or not. Your bench is Richards, Van de Ven, Stack, and Dubravka. You've got 2 free transfers. Got Bruno starting 11, which I was going to take out for Enzo. I would still bench boost, right? Because I don't think like that Bruno versus Enzo thing is only impacting your starting 11. Your bench is still the same bench, and it's good. It's worth a bench boost. If anything, like if you look at someone like Stack, and maybe if he starts this match, like I mean, his minutes could start to decline, so your bench boost quality is going to get worse and worse every single week. So I would just take it. This is also a really good Spurs game. So yeah, I would do it. Start Van de Ven or Stev? Probably Van de Ven. Reinders to Minte, or do I wait a bit? I would wait. 100%. 100% wait. I think this is actually a better Reinders week than Minte. Sar Reinders Minte? I'd start Sar Reinders. You think Mateta to DCL and wildcard is worth it to allow Munoz and Timber? I mean, I would do that. Yeah. Because you have to think about the bigger you go at the back, the stronger your midfield is, the less DCL is someone who's like, you know, we have to play this person every single week. Last season was very different in terms of pricing, right? We were almost playing someone like DCL or Wood every single week. So it's a bit of a different story, or even like question to ask, where if you have someone like DCL last season, he was a perma play every week, and you kind of have to consider what the consequences, I suppose, of that are. Whereas now, you effectively just have DCL as your 8th attacker, but then also someone who can be just benched by a 4th defender. Who to buy this week? Enzo, Sar, Paqueta. I'd probably actually, I think going Paqueta could be quite safe, because slightly better fixture next week, and then you can still go into Enzo and Sar next week. But I would only do that if you can still go back to Enzo and Sar. So for example, if Enzo's available next week, I would just go for him if he's fit. João Pedro to Nick Woltemade roll. Easily roll. I honestly would never do João Pedro to Woltemade, sincerely. I think the 2 next Chelsea games are much better than Newcastle's. What do you think the percentage of Enzo starting is? Honestly, I feel like the news hasn't been super positive, so I'm just going to say 40%, because I feel like it's less likely that he plays. We can also just have a look and consult some of the predicted lineups from some of the Chelsea predictors, right? So there is a Twitter channel or Twitter account called Jump the Wave. This is Emma. She produces a lot of kind of content that supports in terms of predictions, and she kind of gathers predictions. But in terms of the Chelsea predicted lineups. Let's just quickly have a look at that. So 55% of managers predict Enzo to start. 41% predict Lavia to start. Now, this is not in terms of just one specific spot for the team, right? Some people are predicting that even Caicedo potentially could not be playing. But I think the most impacted name in terms of, Enzo plays or he doesn't is Andre Santos. And Andre Santos is at 36%. But these were predictions from 2 days ago, kind of being compiled yesterday, or rather a day ago being compiled yesterday in the evening. So I feel like something to think about is, with a little bit less information now on Enzo, have a lot of these predictions changed? So it was quite murky already, and I don't think we've had any positive news whatsoever. So once again, using a transfer on Enzo, I don't think is really worth it. Any Enzo news? Unfortunately not. Not that I can see. Start 2, Richard, Senesi, Anderson, Virgil van Dijk. Richards, Virgil van Dijk. I play Strand Larson, Xavi Simons, or Bruno. I play Strand Larson and Bruno. Well, if you think Xavi's going to start, maybe he's better than Strand Larson. My concern with Strand Larson is this kind of like Achilles thing and whether he's actually fit whatsoever, right? It generally just doesn't seem like he's fit. So maybe just play Xavi. But then you don't even know if Xavi's necessarily guaranteed to start either, right? So a pretty tricky situation with both. But I would definitely start Bruno just because minutes and all that. Tushar, hey Fran, hope you're doing well. Question is, bench one out of Senesi, Richards, and Ekitike. Yeah, I mean, if you really want to, I'd just play Ekitike and Richards and bench Senesi. Based on the kind of logic that you have. Who's the Spurs penalty taker? I would think it's Richarlison if he's on the pitch. Then I think it's Xavi Simons if he's on the pitch. And then I don't really know. I guess it could actually just fall down to like even a Tell maybe, or I mean, I remember Tell did miss a penalty quite recently. Or no, he actually hasn't. Tell's 9-0 in penalties. So yeah, Tell I think could easily be a penalty taker as well if he's on the pitch. But I'm not sure if Tell's I can't remember if Tell looked injured from last match. Or maybe it was just a dead leg. For my first player on bench, Senesi or Rodon, I probably would bench Senesi this week. Pick 2 to start, Enzo, Paqueta, Sar. Enzo, Paqueta. That's a tricky one. I'd probably just start Sar and Paqueta and call it a day. Time to replace Bruno? Not for me, but I can understand why people want to do it. I'm pretty happy, generally speaking, with keeping Bruno for the rest of the season. As boring as that sounds. But that means he has to be on pens. Yeah, you're right, Mo. Yeah, he did miss the shootout in PSG. That's kind of what I thought about, because I remember like a recent penalty miss that was awful. But then I actually looked at his like transfer market page, and obviously that's not really like a career penalty, but you know how those stats are kind of stupid anyways. Elliot, a transfer out this week. Are we talking Harvey Elliott? Or I guess that's Elliot Anderson, right? Sorry, of course, because Harvey Elliott has 2 T's. But or am I wrong? I think I'm right. But yeah, Elliot Anderson, I don't think he's necessarily a sell this week. It really depends on who you can actually upgrade Elliot Anderson to, because I think the thing with Anderson that's actually quite nice is that he's just very consistent in terms of if he plays 90 minutes every single match, like he's actually pretty likely to get those 4 points or like slightly under that 4-point threshold, but he can still achieve it. Name Manu's best lineup according to myself. Are we talking about like if I was Amorim, the manager? And are we talking like if I'm going to make a lineup to play versus Liverpool? I mean, I would just play, if I was like Amorim and I was going to play a team versus Liverpool, I would actually just roll out the same team that they played versus Sunderland and then just make Dalot Dorgu, and that's it. Yeah, which means basically playing Mount, Mbemo, Ahmad, Sesko, Casemiro, Bruno, Scholderlek, Yoro, and Lamens. I don't think there's much to it, to be honest. Like, I mean, Cunha is a great super sub in that context. Maguire's a great super sub in that context. And Mainu's actually been playing quite well, to be honest, as a sub as well. But I'd still have him as a sub. And honestly, Ugarte, I don't really care about him. So, yeah. Not the best lineup, is it? Best Chelsea defender, looking to downgrade Tarkowski on bench boost. I mean, I probably still think it's Chalobah, but I can see, like, I just don't know if Tosin's ready to start, right? That's kind of my concern in this spot. Maybe he is. And maybe that means that he's got guaranteed minutes now, but I think it's a bit of a risk with him. He is at a ludicrous price point, though. Like, Tosin's absolutely way too cheap. Which two to start? Porro, Diouf, Senesi? I'd probably go Porro, Diouf. You've got the same bench as I do? I would not bench boost my bench. I don't think so. I think Dewsbury Hall's like... Then again, I did bench literally Dewsbury Hall versus... Well, I was benching him versus Liverpool. But I think if I compared my bench this week to Game Week 5, I think Anderson versus Arsenal at home is much worse than Thiago at the time on paper. So yeah. I do appreciate it's another good Dubravka and Senesi game. It's close to a bench boost, I think. I think if you think your future benches are worse, just go for it. Like, and that's kind of almost how I treated that situation myself. Transfer out Gyökeres or wait. I'd probably wait. Dubravka or Pope for goalkeeper. I'd play Dubravka this week. I mean, easy way to check as well is just looking at the odds and looking at the opponent, right? If you kind of want to just do that clean sheet, you know what, let's do that. Do we do that lesson? All right, so I guess it's like if I was doing Pope versus Dubravka, the Brighton odds are there, the Burnley odds are there. You want this. We're basically just saying we're just doing something like we want 0. This is our mean. That's that. That's that. But I just need to fix this up to... What am I doing? Right, so these are effectively your clean sheet odds. Obviously, this is basically close to 50-50 territory, so, you know, why even bother listening to me? But yeah, that's pretty much it, right? You're just recalculating the odds. I mean, this is closer to 26. But yeah, that's kind of the point, right? This is what your opponent's going to score. I'm basically running the probability of, like, with a Poisson distribution, like what it's going to be like if we're going to get 0. We can actually do it, so it's like we can talk about, like, in terms of what the expectations are for your opponents to score like X goal, right? So if I just run this down the line, just need to lock this in, because this is going to be, the mean is always going to be the same in this context. If I do that, lock that in as well. What we're kind of saying in these matches, right, is that actually it's more probable for you to concede that 1 goal. It's also quite probable, almost similarly, to concede those 2 goals. So you can kind of see in terms of, like, the full 100%. I mean, most cases will be covered by 0 to 4 goals, right? And then there's obviously a niche case where 1.5% of the games could be more than 4, but it's super unlikely, as we know. Within a game like this, similar situation where it's the excess 1.2%. But what we're really saying, of course, as we look at visualizing clean sheet odds, is to get that 0 is actually quite tough. It's very low. And then, you know, the probabilities of you conceding are quite high. But in cases like this, I think over the course of a season, I'm more than likely going to take the match day odds and just play them as they are. Like, I think this is a pretty good chance to play Dubravka over Pope. But you can always, like, choose your narratives, right? So, for example, like 2% might not be enough for you to make a decision. So you just suddenly say, okay, I actually still prefer Newcastle as a team. And they've been incredible in their underlyings. And Burnley, conversely, have been the worst team in the league. So if you wanted to choose Pope on that logic, I think that's fine. But from a math point of view, that's that. All right, let's hopefully the number showed, right? Okay, we did. Yeah, I was just double checking. All right, back to FPL. Bench one, Vic, thank you so much for the super chat. Bench one of Njai, Tarkovsky, Sinesio, Alderete. I would bench Tarkovsky. Yeah, I'd bench Tarkovsky. Because Njai is an attacker, so he doesn't really get hurt by conceding goals, right? Timber, Gabriel, I'd probably just go Gabriel first, if you can afford it. Hey, Fran, Rinders or Minte, 6-minute budget. Minte for me. Good morning. Thank you, AFXR29. Yeah, the graphics are something I'm really happy about, so really appreciative that you guys do like it. Do you think Saka over Eze is worth the price? Generally speaking, yes. I think obviously Eze is more price efficient if you want to put it like that, but does this game technically require price efficiency as much as it did, you know, when other players were around? No, because if Palmer's injured for 6 weeks, if you don't want to go into Salah, there's not much of a need for price efficiency. If anything, you're just asking to get players to actually fill up your budget. So that's kind of why I think Saka makes sense in this landscape. Best Chelsea defender, in my opinion, I still think it's Chalobah personally, but I can see like people saying, you know, Fofana's back, Badi Shield's back, like that can impact a lot of the minutes of different players. But I'd still say Chalobah, because I don't think Tosin. I really don't think I can say that Tosin starts. Morning, Fran. I don't know if you know anything helps. News on Caicedo. It seems like Caicedo's fine. I know Alderete is in training. Lyle Foster seems to be close to coming back. So I think the manager said he seemed pretty optimistic about Lyle Foster actually playing. So I think, yeah, I think Alderete Foster is fine. I don't have any news in terms of Caicedo, in terms of official sources, but I think Caicedo will play. Am I in the cartel? Sorry, am I in the cartel? I was thinking about Harvey Keitel. I don't know why. Just, you know, reading that. But yeah, am I in the cartel? Yes, of course. Unfortunately, yeah, the cartel has no news on Enzo. I mean, I guess if I had news on Enzo, maybe I'd consider transferring him in, but I really don't. Thoughts on Gordon or wildcards? I don't really love Gordon wildcard. I just think the Gordon minutes are just poor. Like I personally prefer Waltman over Gordon right now. Paqueta, Reinders on a wildcard? Probably Paqueta. I mean, after this week, you don't really like the Reinders games, right? But then Holland is Holland. Let's be honest, like Aston Villa away, Bournemouth at home, Liverpool at home, Newcastle away. Does it actually get worse than that? Honestly. But Badiashile is out for some time. Badiashile isn't out for some time, no? Who said he's out for some time? Am I wrong? Oh my god, he's out until December. Man, this guy's so injury prone. That's terrible. Wow. Sorry, yeah. Okay. He's just made out of glass. My bad. Thank you, Volodymyr. Yeah, I probably would actually just go. I'd just go Chalobah in this situation because you really do want the start this week too. Alderete, I think, should start. Yeah, Vanaven or Diouf. I'd probably go Vanaven. Eze and João Pedro or Saka and Calvin. I mean, are you gonna play Calvin every single week? I'd probably go Eze and João Pedro because I don't really love DCL as a permanent play. Would you play Virgil van Dijk or Senesi this week? I'd play Virgil van Dijk. I mean, I have him in my team, right? Hi, Fran. Hi, James. Guehi or Munoz? You got both? I play Munoz over Guehi every time. Is Enzo starting? I really don't know. I'm sorry about that. Like, we literally have not had any news whatsoever on Enzo. None. None whatsoever. You're top 100k and haven't had to make... Sorry, I was just looking for Enzo news. Like, I literally cannot see anything. You're top 100k and you haven't had to make transfers. You still have Salah, Mark Q, but you're in a good spot with 3 transfers. I think if you've got Salah and Haaland, I think you're fine. Like, this is a really good Salah running game, so I would just keep it. Start Rodon over Roger Van Dijk. I would actually go Rodon. How much worse is Saliba over Gabriel? I would actually just go Timber over Saliba. You've put Esteban on your wildcard team. Yeah, you will need luck. I just think the unfortunate thing is that he is very young and they're kind of projecting his minutes. And even still, like, I don't think he's going to play that sort of upper bound of minutes. Like, if he starts every single match, I kind of think it's more like 65, 70. But I can see the appeal. Like, he's very enticing. Minte or Burn to start? Minte for me. Because it's a home game for Brighton, right? Start Esteve against Leeds. Yeah. I don't see a problem with that. Due for Alderete. Alderete for me. Cash to Tosin. Thank you so much for the super chat, Salah. Or Garner to Arias. Cash to Tosin. I mean, Tosin might not even start. That's kind of my small concern there. I'd probably go for the Arias move. Have been watching you for about 3 years now. Thank you so much, Samu. I appreciate it, my friend. But yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. 172 guys in the stream. Feel free to like. Feel free to subscribe. Thank you so much for supporting. Now that you go for Paqueta, should you go for Mateta instead of Bowen up front? Now that you go for Paqueta, like, are we talking wildcard now? Yeah, I guess you can go for Mateta. Do you think Marshall West Ham any good? I mean, he's not worth anything. So obviously, if you're going to use that spot for a dead spot, then I think that's fine. But, you know, is there any other value towards him? Not really. I personally think Enzo might not start. I really don't know what's going on with Enzo. I can't say, guys. Kudos for Enzo to start. I'd start Kudus. Now that I go for Paqueta, should I go for Mateta? Yeah, you can go for it. Bench 1, Sar, Caicedo, and Saka. I'd probably just bench Caicedo, but that's me. Bench 1, Njai, Senesi, Goodmanson. I'd bench Njai. It's Njai or Senesi. I think I'd still bench Njai. Mateta or Woltemade, who to bench if I have to play? I would just bench Woltemade if you have to bench one. You bank on Crystal Palace to win? Yeah, but I don't think you necessarily need to go triple Palace. I mean, I just have Palace players in my team, right? If I didn't have, I don't know, let's say Lacroix, and maybe I had a Rodon or Alderete, like I could still play him over Lacroix. Morgan Rogers to who? Anyone, really. Sar is quite nice, I think, in terms of someone who's going to play this week. I quite like Sar. Enzo leaks, there's literally none. I can't see any Enzo leaks personally. Cookies or brownies? I'm definitely like pro cookies. Come on now. Who should I replace? Oh, I wouldn't replace Enzo. I would just auto sub. I currently have Evan Nilsson with 1.6 in the bank. Who would you go for? I've given up all hope on Evan Nilsson. Honestly, you might have given up on hope on João Pedro, but I just think this run of games is really good for João Pedro. I would go João Pedro. But if you don't want to go Evan Nilsson and you want to move him on, like, I guess you could punt on Bowen for a few weeks, but you know, I'm not too in love with it. Esteve or Lacroix? I'd play Esteve this week, I think. Should I move Xavi to another under 7 million midfielder? Yeah, I think you can. I think you can just Paqueta's interesting. Minte's interesting. Sar's interesting in terms of transfers this week. What for someone who's like guaranteed to play? Burnley CS, yes or no? I mean, it's obviously less likely than it is likely, but I mean, I would take my chances in terms of things like bench boost, etc., or even playing Dubravka over Pope. Should I bench boost Dubravka, Bruno, Senesi, Anderson? I think that's fine. Keep in mind you got Enzo and Esteve in your squad. I mean, Esteve's fine, right? Enzo's probably the only issue where you think maybe like on a bench boost it doesn't feel great, but I would still consider the bench boost. Thoughts on Enzo? I really don't have thoughts. I mean, I would love to go Enzo if I knew he was fully fit, but there doesn't seem to be any news on Enzo starting. Excuse me. Start Calvert-Lewin or Burnley striker. Calvert-Lewin for sure. Enzo / Anthony / Reinders. I mean, Anthony might not even start, right? So I would go Enzo Reinders. I'm gonna wildcard best Chelsea defender. I'd probably still say Chalobah. Hey, Fran, would you -4 for Guardiola to shift out? -4 for Guardiola. I wouldn't -4 for Guardiola. Senesi, Rogers, and Jai bench 1. Rogers. Akshay, have Vicar and Dubravka. Not keen on Vicar long term. Nah, I would keep Vicar this week. You know, Pope doesn't have a good game. Sanchez does, but I'd probably just keep Vicar for this week. Is Alderete fine? Seems like it. He was in training. Out of your team, who do you think will get the most points this week? I don't know. I want to say Haaland. All right, let's choose someone who's not Haaland. Hopefully Mateta. Hopefully Mateta. EY, Senesi, or Guehi, who's the better punt? Guehi, I would think, for this week, right? Play one of Arias or Evan Olsen this week? I'd play Arias. Sorry. Thanks so much for the super chat, my friend. Lucas says, hey, Fran, shall I sell Richarlison or JP? For JP. Yeah, I think that's worth it. Surely Semenyo. Why is that? Because he's getting a lot of points. No, I don't think Semenyo's... I wouldn't say Semenyo's anywhere close to like the top of my picks this week. Probably my worst attacker, if I'm honest. Should I start Senesi or Alderete? I'd start Alderete. Start Waltemar or Minte? I'd start Minte. Yeah, he's been scoring back-to-back goals, but does that mean he's just going to continue scoring back-to-back goals over tougher matches? Hard to say. Crystal Palace are very good defense as well. Holland / Saka / Skokres for the captain. Holland for me. I really don't like an Arsenal player for captaincy this week. I haven't thought about it for a second. Can you please help me pick 2 out of VVD, Senesi, Goodmanson? I'd go VVD, Goodmanson. Yeah, there's literally just no Enzo news. I really thought we'd get some. And maybe we still can over the next 40 minutes, right? Marvel or DC? Like comics or like movies? Any news on Caicedo and Alderete? I think they're both fine to play. Alderete was actually in training as well. Fran, you're in Nottingham. Should I go on an Enzo hunt? Please do. Please do. I mean, find that Chelsea team bus and just get on it. Start Senesi Rodon. I'd go Rodon. Comics, I'd probably say DC. Like movies, just because of the slate so far, just Marvel, right? Start NJ or Reinders for sure. Is Reece James a shout? I'm gonna say no. Do you still value Liverpool defense with no Alisson or Konate? I think Konate is fine, right? There's only no Alisson, and Mamardashvili is a very, very good goalkeeper. What do you think about starting Senesi over Lacroix because you've got Semenyo? I mean, you can do that, but I mean, I mean, that's up to you. I think the play is to play Lacroix, but I get it. Like, I mean, I've got Lacroix versus Senesi as well, and versus Semenyo. But I suppose what makes me comfortable just backing the odds is I've got Mateta, so I just have to choose either way, right? Start Esteve or Senesi, I'd go Esteve. So Senesi, Richards. I mean, once again, it's just, for me, I would just play the odds in this scenario where it's just like, I'd expect Palace to do a bit better. That kind of thing, more than anything. You've got both Enzo and Alderete. Should I still bench boost? Should Enzo be in the starting lineup or not? Guys, I really don't know. I mean, I have no news on it. I don't think I personally would lean on him not starting because there's such a lack of information. And we haven't seen him in training, so because you got to think about it too, like he came home early, right? So in theory, like if he was actually fit and ready to play, like maybe he'd be in training once, right? Oh, Sal, thanks so much for the super chat. GameWeek 8 team. Dubravka, Timber, Richards, Roden, who's right, sorry. Salah, Kudus, Minte, Arias, Holland, Waltemad, subs, Pope, Evan Nilsson, Tennessee, Cash. Start Pope, Dubravka. I'd start Dubravka personally. Part of it too is also, I mean, you're gonna play Richards versus, like, I kind of like that you've done Richards versus Evan Nilsson and you got Minte versus Pope, so yeah, I'd probably just do that. Dream Brother 22, hope you're doing well, my friend. Why does it feel bad to bench Waltemad? Because he's been red hot in form. But he is away, and it is a tough game. Diouf for Trippier? I'd probably actually play Diouf. Alderete starts? I think so. Well, Neto, I don't know. I mean, there's a bit of a doubt with Neto, right? If anything, I'd feel more comfortable that Esteval starts and maybe Garnacho alongside Bench Goodmanson, Van de Ven, Richards, and Truffet. Probably Truffet. Because you got to think Truffet is not going to have DEFCON this week, right? So, or unlikely. And so, yeah, worst fixture there for most. Than most, rather. Omar, thank you so much for the super chat. Sell Richards and Mbemo for Enzo / Sar and Pedro. I mean, I'd go Sar and Pedro at this point. Yeah, I would do that. Salah, thanks so much for joining as a captain as well. Really appreciate, my friend. Hope you're well. By the way, for all the people who are members of the channel, if you want to get access to Discord or just DMing me on whatever platform sort of suits, feel free to message me. Drop a comment in terms of YouTube. I do still look at all of them. If you want to get into the Discord, or you can just kind of DM me on Discord as well. So that's an easy way to contact me. If throughout the week you have some questions that you want answered, etc. I'm planning, hopefully, when I have a bit more free time, to do some more members content. But it's hard to say, obviously, just because work demands and all that stuff, as I'm still full-time. Working full-time, that is. Abdul Rahman, thank you so much for the super chat. Sell Salah, Reinders, KDH, Saka, Sar, Enzo. I'd probably avoid the Enzo move. I honestly, I wouldn't do it. I feel like Salah Reinders is perfectly fine this week. I would actually just roll, because you have uncertainty over Enzo. I think this is a brilliant Salah game, so I really wouldn't want to sell Salah. And, Sar's still going to have a pretty tough fixture next week, so I really wouldn't make those moves. I know you have a lot of free transfers. I know you want to use them. And, yeah, because Enzo looks a bit unappetizing this week, I'd probably call it off. Start Evan Nilsson or Reinders. I'd go Reinders. Richarlison plus Lacroix to João Pedro plus Mukiele, or Richarlison plus King to Enzo plus Obi. I'd go João Pedro plus Mukiele, my friend. Looking at 4.9 to 5 CBIT midfielders to bring in, thinking, yeah, this is exactly what I was saying, Jim Brother. I was literally saying, I mean, someone here was going to bring in Stack, and I literally just said, yeah, why not just bring in Xhaka or Longstaff? Those are my favorites. Literally word for word the same two. Waltermata over Minte, Sar, Mateta. Nah, I would play all the other players. I'd bench Waltermata in that situation. I think you have the right move there. But obviously you can disagree. Like, you don't have to. Buy Burn or Chalobah? Probably Chalobah this week. This isn't a really good Newcastle game. Yorkers to João Pedro for a free. I don't think it's worth a free. You're not considering Reinders and Anderson to Sar and 4 mil defender? Not at all. Why would I want to do that? If I go Sar this week, then next week I literally have Mateta and Sar versus Arsenal. So that's going to put me in a pretty bad spot. If you didn't use your triple captain the same game week as you, when would you recommend using it? Probably just save it for, like, honestly, one of Leeds at home, Sunderland at home, West Ham at home. You can even do it Sunderland away, but yeah, one of those games personally. I wouldn't do it on this one. This is probably the next best game though up until Leeds, so that is a long time away. But you're still gonna have the chance to use it. Start Chalobah, Rodon, Mukiele and Sar, or Burn and Caicedo. Mukiele and Sar for me. Should I bench boost with Dubravka, Xhaka, Alderete, and Anthony? I think that's fine, but obviously that there's some risks with Jadon Anthony. Use one free transfer for Munoz to Virgil. Already have. I don't like Munoz to Virgil. I would just play Munoz this week. Yeah, I would just play the team as it is. And Jair Caicedo to start? Probably Caicedo this week. Start sells Dubravka. Start one of Reinders, Senesi, Xhaka, Reinders. And Jair transfer out this week. I think if you can get towards someone like Sar, maybe. But you also need good first bench for next week. So for me, he's more within the hold territory. Like, Njai is still a very, very good pick. Is Eze a good pick for long term? Yeah, definitely. Mostly because the Odegaard injury really helps him within that long term, sort of span or run. There's literally no Enzo news. Nothing on Enzo. I can't see anything on Enzo. So it's a bit unfortunate. Someone's brought in Gordon last week on wildcard, or do you feel like it was a mistake? How long would you give him? Um, I mean, because Enzo's out this week and Sar has a poor fixture next week, I feel like you can ignore. Paqueta is also quite short term. So I think Gordon's a fine hold. I would definitely reassess next week, though, and probably buy Enzo if Enzo's fit. Like, I just think with Sar being such a great this week, poor next week kind of pick, you can kind of just ignore for now, right? And like in terms of making that sort of that move itself. So I would just still roll on with Gordon, even though he doesn't have the best game this week. How is there literally no news? Moser, do you think Enzo may come from the bench or he might not play? I personally think he starts, so he doesn't play. I don't really see what's the point if he's not fit for him to almost play like 10, 20 minutes. Andre Santos is around, and they still have a bit of depth, especially with Lavia in and around the team. Sar's the GW8 10 buy? Yeah, for me, I think that will be the case. Is it wise to bench boost for Bruno, Alderete, Caicedo, Dubravka? I think so. That's perfectly fine. Start Pope Dubravka? I'd personally go Dubravka. Mbemo on the wild card? Probably skip on Mbemo. Especially with a front-loaded poor game, right? Njai to any 8.0 mid. I'd still go Sar if you really wanted to go out of Njai, but next week is still tough. Is it worth taking risk on Enzo? I don't think it's worth selling Kudus and Foden this week, my friend. I just don't think it's worth it, really. I think Kudus and Foden both have good games. They both are at home. They both have good matches. But if you guys are here and you're new, feel free to subscribe and also like. That really does help support. I think Alderete starts. I don't know if Enzo starts. I personally would lean towards Enzo not starting, but we have no news on it. Hi, Fran. Which two do I play? Pope, Minte, DCL, Dubravka. I play Minte. and Dubravka. I'm kind of confused though. Do you mean like, do you have to play Pope and Minte, or do you say Dubravka like you just want to play one against the other? Like I don't really know what you mean by that. I would play Minte and Dubravka if that's kind of what you're saying, like in terms of one opponent not playing versus the other defense. As a punt, Paqueta or Sar, I think Sar is better, just long term. But if you're like literally just one game week punting, Paqueta might be better. You'd lean towards Enzo starting. Really though, they do have a lot of games coming up. You're basically saying that Pope and Diesel will be benched. Yeah, I think that's fine. I agree. Selchavi Simon's one free transfer. I probably would, but this is still a pretty decent game to hold on to him for, in all honesty. You're going to start Caicedo and Alderete and play your bench boost. Highly doubt Enzo starts. You got lucky picking Calafiori on your wildcard 7. Oh, Caicedo. Yeah, good luck. Does it worry you how many games Palace have coming up in this? Sarr doesn't actually have that much of an injury record. He played a lot of games last season, to be honest. Like, I'm pretty sure Sarr played most of the season. Like, yeah, he played 2,700 minutes last season. He's actually been fit most of his career. I wouldn't be worried about his injury record at all. I just think they're not in the position to rotate quite yet. Probably will rest against Ajax. Yeah. Having said, Enzo does actually like rotating a lot. But I think it's also a fitness thing, right? It's like if you trust on Andre Santos, I don't know. After I dropped a message earlier but had to leave the stream, can you help me decide as the last starter? Start Dewsbury, Hall, Anderson, or Goodmanson? Goodmanson easily, yeah. My bench is Alderete, Dubravka, Stack, and Enjoy. Good time to bench boost. I think it's decent. It's not the best bench boost, but Alderete is fantastic. So is Dubravka. Stack, I mean, yeah, I would just use it because this is, potentially one of the last like good weeks of Stack, maybe. Like if his minutes get worse, and it's not the best NGI game, but you'll probably have someone else in the future who actually has a worse game in terms of quality of asset on the bench, that sort of thing. Quite like the NGI game as a non-owner. Yeah, I mean, like I think, I mean, City will probably set up for it, right? Part of it too is like also you're just like with let's say Dibbling probably playing and all the other stuff. Like it's a worse Everton team compared to usual. Reinders, like I said, if leaks are available, I don't think it's worth it. This is a good Reinders week. I mean, I'd move to Caicedo next week if you want to. Thank you, Robert. I've got no cookies this week, unfortunately. It is a shame, but I have none. Should I bench boost Dubravka, Van Dijk, Bruno, Senesi? Yep, I think that's a good bench boost. Bench boost Dubravka, Mukele, Anderson, KDH. Slightly worse, but I think if you want to get rid of it, I think that's okay. Start DCL. Yep, worth going for Gabriel now. I still think it is. I don't think you can ever go wrong owning Gabriel. Now, obviously, he can get injured, but that's not really the point. Really don't think you should be streaming without cookies. That's a fair point. Keep Riders a wild card. Probably not. The fixtures after this are really bad. Hi, which 2 out of 4 would you start? Vanaven, Senesi, Richards, Alderete. Probably Alderete and Vanaven. Or, sorry, I would say Alderete, Richards. Do we just ignore Semenyo's underlying data long term? What do you mean by that? Sorry. Like, you mean how he's like overachieving? I don't really know what that question even means. Like, are we? Do you think it's like? Are you saying it's bad? Are you saying it's good? Because I mean, his underlying data is still better than most people in the midfield, right? He's just overperforming, but the underlying data suggests he's still really, really good. So I don't really know what the concerns are with. Yeah, but it's. I understand he's saying it's not sustainable, but that it's not sustainable from a point of view of underlying data. Like the reality is, if Semenyo actually matched, if Semenyo was running on the NPXG that he was running on, he'd still be one of the best Premier League midfielders by far. So even though he's overperformed, his average performance, if you look at like XG, is very, very good. So what's the concern? Like if I was to sort NPXG across the league right now and filter out some of the players who aren't playing every single minute, I mean, this is the list, right? Let's go through it. Haaland, then it's Ismail Sarr, then it's Gruda, super reduced minutes, you know, not a fair comparison for 90s, so exclude Estevao, exclude Beto, exclude Mateta, kind of exclude as well because he's not a 90-minute player. Wood, also not a 90-minute player now. Ekitike, not a 90-minute player. Enzo, he's up there, fair. Then it's Gordon, not a 90-minute player. Murphy, not a 90-minute player. Welbeck, not a 90-minute player. Ouattara, not a 90-minute player. Then it's Semenyo, right? So in terms of actual 90-minute players, like there's Haaland, who's close to 90 minutes. Sarr, who's close to 90 minutes. And then it literally just goes all the way to Semenyo. I think I'm probably being a bit harsh on Mateta and Enzo, right? They're there, but he's like top 6, and that's a top 3 mid. So what's to worry about? He still has pens for like 20-30% of the game, and he's on free kicks as well. Hey, Dilo. Opinions on my bench boost. Dubravka, Tarkovsky, Gravenberg, and Rodon. That's a pretty good bench boost, to be honest. Even Tarkovsky, I think you kind of hope, you know, City don't... Like, City won't really, score 4, I suppose. So it's like, even a 3-pointer is actually very helpful for the bench boost. If he can kind of just get the DEFCON in that game, and I think it's very likely that he will. Josh Cullen, Xhaka, I'd go Xhaka. Have to ship out Reinders. Yeah, I get it. Am I a fan of Minte? Hugely a fan of Minte. Should I just bring Caicedo instead of Enzo? I don't mind it. I really don't mind it. Hey, Fran, Bruno Richards and Richards or Richarlison. Hey, Fran, Bruno, Richarlison, and Foden to Saka, Kudus / Sarr, Waltermat. I don't really think that's a good week to do it because Waltermat has a pretty poor game. Kudus I kind of like, but then Sarr, I think you deal with the flip side of like what happens with a poor game. I think because Foden and Bruno, I'd probably just wait a week or even 2, right? Because if you go Sarr now, you'll have to deal with a poor game. I guess if you go Kudus, you don't really feel that, but then Waltermat is a pretty poor game as well. I'd probably just do Richarlison out for 1 move. I'd probably keep maybe Foden this week over Saka. Should I play Cucurella or Lacroix? I play Cucurella. Bench boost, Dubravka, Pedro Porro, stack Mukiele. I think that's great. As I was kind of saying, this is a good stack fixture, but I mean, his minutes could kind of dry up in a bit. So we'll just need to kind of monitor that situation going forwards. I'm just once again going to quickly check and see if we have actually any news on like ends on the like. None that I can really see, which is a bit of a shame, honestly. Chelsea news, please. We have none. Have to ship out Reinders or Caicedo undecided. Could also sell Tarkovsky, but just think he's going to... Yeah, I think Tarkovsky is super consistent. Like, if you're worried about one player for one match in DEFCON and they could probably still get 3 points in that game, he's not really a problem, is he? Pretty much just targeting Aston Villa for Seabit right wing play at the moment. Fair. Captain Salah, Holland. I would still go Holland, but if you actually have pretty high risk tolerance, I would go Salah. I just think if you own Salah for the next 2 weeks, you're probably gonna like. I think it feels more comfortable doing the Salah captaincy on 9 and 10. Enzo or Sar with bench boost. I'd go Sar because you want to get the bench boost off, right? Start Petrovic or Dubravka. I would go Dubravka. Just looking at the odds, I would just have a look at that too. So would you get for the odds graphic, guys? Would you kind of want this to kind of move in terms of like? Oh, to be fair, I should probably say that that's like GameWeek 8 XG, right? But I think it's pretty obvious like what the odds are, right, in terms of goals. Yeah, these are betting website odds. They're market odds that are devigged. So basically, the that kind of like additional market surplus has been taken off. That's what a vig is. So that's the expected goals for this week. When I say expected, I don't mean underlying stats. I mean expected in terms of what the markets are predicting, right? If you were to shave off the vig. Ragela, please stop spamming in chat. She's not going to answer a question if you spam. Jackson, nice to see you around. Right, and Jai to Paqueta. I don't mind the move, but I think also Paqueta in a few weeks' time is also going to be a transfer out, right? So that's a small concern there. Isak or Ekitike, I'd go Isak if you really want to. But I think there's still a risk with Isak minutes, so up to you. Should I take the hit to swap Holland for Xerxes or just let things roll? Wait, what? I would definitely just buy Holland for Xerxes. Why do you own Xerxes? Side Caicedo or Bruno? Probably Bruno. Munoz, Chalaba Minte, or Anderson, Senesi, Gordon on wildcard 8. I like Munoz, Chalaba Minte. Because I don't think Senesi really supports wildcard 8 too much. Good morning, Doctor. How are you? Start Reinders versus Caicedo? I'd go Reinders. Good evening. Any news on Enzo starting? Unfortunately, no. I don't think Enzo's going to start. But thank you guys so much for being here. Please feel free to like and subscribe. We're pretty close to 460. Oh, sorry, 46k. Hopefully one day we'll be at 460k. That would be nice. Foster off, as in Foster's not ready. Who's reporting all Foster's out? Oh, I kind of see what you mean. Yeah, Foster might not be. I mean, we kind of expected this, right? Because he came with an injury with South Africa, am I right? But it seems like he could still be fit. I haven't seen any updated news. Bro, yeah? Yeah. Can you do a cookie stream at 50k? Yeah, we definitely can. That's a promise. Happy for you playing well this season. Thank you, mate. Thanks, Nikesh. 3-3 transfers next week is quite nice, so hopefully we can start racking it up a bit more. Could really use my feedback. E7 says Saliba slash Saka over Timber slash Caicedo for a safety. I prefer Timber Caicedo. I mean, Enzo's nailed when he's fit, right? But fitness is a real thing. Vice captain. Oh, right. Good point. I don't even know who my vice is. Like Gyökeres, maybe. you. That was actually very helpful. What Liverpool midfielder will start? You know, McAllister actually played 90 minutes for the last friendly, so I actually think he'll be benched, which means that you'll probably see Wirtz, Sobo, Gravenberg. Or, well, yeah. Hard to say whether they... I mean, I don't really expect Sobo to start right back, but yeah. Should I pick Waltemater or Bowen, and why? I'd pick Waltemater because I just generally feel a bit more comfortable at Newcastle's team strength. I know Bowen has better games in the short term. Oh, but your wildcard in Game Week 13. That's a very... I'd probably go Bowen then. Yeah, I'd probably go Bowen, honestly. It's a generally good run for West Ham up until like 13. Obviously 12 was a bad game, but you know, you get the point. I would still go João Pedro if it's going to be a Game Week 13 wildcard. I just think it suits the timeline so well. But I can understand not wanting to do it as well. If you're using bench boost, should you take a -4 to take Enzo out for, say, Bruno or Caicedo? I don't think that's worth it. Think you're going to take a risk with Lau Foster and get some menu and take out King and Watkins? I think that's fine. But Lau Foster might not play, right? So pretty big risk there. Liam, would you do Gyökeres, Bruno, and Nico Williams to Walter Saka and Palace defense for free? Yeah, I actually don't mind that reorientation. If Saka takes Nick's pen, is he priority in? Not really. I do think Minte is also a better pick than Paqueta. Start Njara Foster. I have used bench boost and I wouldn't use it this week, but that's because I pretty much looked ahead and I thought I prefer the bench boost on 5 that I had than this, but you know, didn't work out super well, but still had Senesi Hall. Bench boost with Goodmanson, Stack Njai, Dubravka. I think that's fine. Start Njai, Foster, Njai. Start Verbruggen or Dubravka. Probably would just go Dubravka. Can't really decide on who to sell. Reinders, Caicedo. I'd probably sell Reinders. I mean, the next few Chelsea games are really good, right? Whereas it's really not the same with Man City. Start Njara Foster. I did reply, so slight headache, but we'll get there. Yeah, I get that. Nabide, thank you so much, my friend. 1Q on wildcard. João Pedro plus DCL, Waltmart plus Welbeck. Definitely João Pedro plus DCL. You can't really guarantee Welbeck minutes, I think, unfortunately. Would you not transfer Minte for Paqueta? Well, no, why would I do that? It's Newcastle at home. It's like such a bad game. I actually think this is a better game for Paqueta than Minte. Even like if Minte is a better pick than Paqueta long term, then you know I'll do that later, not now. Do you think Tosin starts? Hard to say. Probably. Because they also have like a lot of injuries, and I mean he's coming back from injury and he's fit. Solid triple. This week, I wouldn't do it, but if you want to go for it, go for it. Will Anthony play? I really don't know. Doesn't seem like he's been in training, so that's something like I haven't seen anyone mentioning that. I'd probably pass on TC Holland. I do think Alderete starts. Gabriel with the hit. Really depends on who you're taking out of, but I think generally speaking makes sense. Start Lacroix, Senesi. I'd go Lacroix. Start Esteve or Senesi. I'd probably go Esteve. Your dog gave me taking -4 to swap out Ekatike and Njai for Saka and DCL. I think that's fine. I think that's solid. Thanks, Ryan. Love you as always. Thank you. Love you. Captain. What do you mean? Holland? Do I have captaincy wrong? Start Anderson and Njai or Senesi. Are we saying Anderson from Fulham or Anderson from Nottingham Forest? Would you start Foster and Njai? As I said, I would just start Njai. Pope versus Minte. I'd go Minte. Start Minte or Foster. Minte easily. DCL over Enzo. Like to start. I'd still probably start Enzo and then have DCL auto sub. Enzo. Who said Enzo tick? Is there a leak? No leak that I can see. Neither that from me. Any latest news on Enzo? Literally none, unfortunately. Mente may play off the left. Yeah, it is. Oh, the Savinho on the left is some of the driest football I've ever seen. Oh, Insta Enzo is in his kit. Who's Insta? You're saying Enzo's Insta. Like what, he's done like a match day tweet. I don't see anything. Super chat, please. Oops. Let's have a look at that. Sorry about that. E7, thank you so much for the super chat. Benching order Caicedo and Jai Senesi. I think the order would be Caicedo for sure first. Trying to just think about what we're expecting to get out of Njai. I'd probably have... The thing with this match, I think, is like Njai will probably play the full match, so I would have Njai over Senesi, just about, yeah. And Senesi can also come off earlier, right? Whereas I don't think this is a game where Njai comes off early. So that's pretty much the order that I'd have it. I still wouldn't do Reinders to Caicedo if leaks are available, for sure. To answer Robert's initial question almost. All right, Rufus, you're just going to get a timeout. So that's that. Where exactly are we seeing this Enzo's in kit piece? 3 minutes left. I don't see any news on Enzo personally. I wouldn't take the risk, but if I was on wildcard, I would definitely take the risk. To kind of put it that way, because it's almost like... I'm sorry, 2 super chats. Amareldo, thank you so much for the super chat. Who to bench? Enzo, Sar, Reinders, Diouf, Semenyo, Richards, which two? The thing is, Enzo for me is the start, and like, you know, if he doesn't play, he doesn't play, right? So I would just have Diouf on the bench. I mean, can you bench both defenders? If you can bench both defenders, I would just bench both defenders. I'd play all the attackers. But if you have to pick like one player in defense, then I would bench Diouf over Richards. If you had to bench one midfielder, probably bench like Reinders and then just have Enzo, and then, you know, Reinders becomes an auto sub if it happens. Best captain if you don't have Haaland, Salah, and if you don't have either, I mean, probably Saka at this point. Yeah. Anish, thank you so much for the super chat. And thank you, Dan, as well, for the super chat. But Anish, member for 23 months, awesome. Close to 24 as well. Start 4, Eze, Gakpo, Semenyo, Sar, Kudus. I'd probably just... Man, that's a tough one. I actually think I'd bench Semenyo there, honestly. You might think that I'm crazy, but I mean, this is a pretty tough game for Semenyo, so I'd consider benching him in this game. Because I feel like the Gakpo minutes are pretty good. As long as he plays over 70 minutes, you probably think that's slightly... Like, that's just a good day you'll take. Kudus is going to play really good minutes, and he's at home. I'd probably do that. If you're worried, I'd probably bench Kudus. Like if you're worried about the Semenyo ownership, I would actually bench. Actually, looking at your forwards, I would bench Waltemart easily. Sorry, my bad. I was actually just looking at your midfielders and just thinking to bench one. I would bench Waltemart in that situation. All right, back to live chat. We literally have 1 minute left, by the way. Did you play Gridmaster? No. Deadline incoming. Yep. Not too long left, guys. Lock it in. Bruno out, Salah in, Ryder out, Shaq in. Nice. Good luck. Well, that's a pretty big play, but I do like it. Isak captain. That's Deadline. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for supporting the stream. Please feel free to like. Please feel free to subscribe. And we'll see you guys soon for some more content. Take care, guys. See you soon.